Hello, my name is Gary Mansfield, and this is the Ministry of Arts podcast, where each week I'll be speaking to a different artist. Now let's begin by bagging these bongos.
Yeah, right. Crazy.
Hello, and welcome to episode 213 of the Ministry of Arts podcast. I'm going to keep this intro a little short because, as you can possibly hear, I've still got quite a sore throat. I'm coming to the end of my flu, and as half of the population is well aware, man flu is much more powerful than regular flu. But even so, I'll soldier on. Firstly, as ever, thank you very much to our Patreon supporters, without whom we would not be able to create this podcast. There'll be a little message at the end of the podcast to tell you how you could show your support via Patreon, if that's what you'd like to do. Today, I'm taking you to meet Caro, Clarke, who also goes by the name of INKTERAKTIV. As I mentioned in this episode, the first time I saw her work was a couple of years ago at Electric Gallery, where Heath Kane had his exhibition, and he invited several artists to work over the top of one of his artworks. She has quite a unique and very effective process. And when this comes out on, I think, Monday the 3rd of April, she would have just finished showing at the other art fair in LA. How cool is that? So, without further ado, please come with me and meet Caro Clarke, aka INKTERAKTIV.
How are you, Gary?
Not bad, you good?
Yeah, very good. Crazy busy, but in a really positive light, I think. Yeah.
And where did INKTERAKTIV come from?
That was so my former career is as a designer and photographer, mostly working commercially, and I used to do all my sketches and drawings with an ink pen, and all the guys in the office always used to make fun of me for that instead of using a computer. So it became INKTERAKTIV. And then I thought, when I quit my career and became an artist, well, how very fitting that to just keep that name. So it's kind of become my online identity.
Of course, why not? And I first saw your work at Electric Gallery during Heath Kane's exhibition.
Yes, actually, I remember meeting you. I think even Heath introduced us, which was really nice.
That's it.
Yeah, but that was such an amazing show. I mean, Heath is a master as just pulling these amazing collaborations together and managing to raise money for a good cause as well. So it was a really, really fun project to work on as well.
I do have 7 questions, Caro, that I ask each artist. So the first being, how would you explain what you do to someone that may not know your work?
I use fluorescent colored paper strips to create paper sculptures, mostly kind of abstract geometrical kind of pattern making. And I'm starting to get into more figurative work now. But it's sort of somewhere between paper art and paper sculpture. I kind of haven't really found how to define it yet. But
I mean, you say sculpture, but it is wall hung, isn't it?
At the moment it is, yeah. I'm actually working on a different collection that's going to be completely self-standing at some point. So not happening just yet, but it's coming along. So, yeah.
So for those listening who may not be able to visualise what you do, if we visualise the one you've done in Heath Kane's exhibition, because it's an image of a person rather than abstract, it may be easier for people to understand what it is you're talking.
So if you know Heath Kane's work, for example, in this case, it was his Richer Than Batman series with the Queen's face with a Batman mask on it. And I always sort of loved that idea that he's kind of communicating about wealth in our society. And these online conversations that you end up having now because of social media. So Heath and I are always just back and forth all the time. And I remember a few years ago reacting to one of his kind of half-tone portraits he had done. I was like, oh, I would really try to sort of love to challenge myself to apply my technique of gluing paper vertically with that kind of pattern. And I guess Heath must have remembered that, because about a year later, he's like, "Hey, would you like to be in a collab show?" Like, you don't say no to that. It was like, yes, of course. And yeah, and then it became this kind of like, oh my gosh, I can actually do this with paper. So it was a realization for me as well. So I have now my next series, which hasn't come out yet, is basically more figurative. So it's all portraits of female figures that I admire, that I'm going to be doing really, really big with that same kind of technique.
Brilliant. So you use strips of fluorescent paper, possibly
yes,
2 centimeters thick.
they're actually 8 millimeters.
Okay, sorry.
I don't know why I picked 8. I guess because it's not 10. It's not 1
That's
centimeter.
good enough reason.
Yeah. But so basically, I pre-cut these from like really big sheets, because the original technique that I got into as I was moving away from paper cutting, which is a more sort of Asian, Japanese, Chinese techniques of sort of traditional paper cuts, was this technique called paper quilling, which has actually been around for over 2,000 years. And I wanted to take a course to see, what I could do with it. But the paper itself is quite light and flimsy, and I didn't feel like I could get that sculptural structure that I really wanted. So I started buying much thicker paper, and then I found this wonderful glowy fluorescent colors, which I absolutely fell in love with. So that's what I'm doing. Yeah.
So you stick them vertically as if the paper strip is standing on the surface, and the color is either inside or out. Is that correct?
Yes, or both. So sort of playing with distance when you have these kind of structures, is the closer the strips are to each other, they kind of start reflecting off of each other, and it creates this almost paint-like effect on the background, even though the background is completely clear, white usually. So it's at the moment it's a playing process, because I'm sort of still finding my voice a little bit. But I've really found something to sort of zone into, to call my own now, which I'm going to keep on going with, hopefully.
Other than the figurative piece, all I'd seen of you previous was abstract shapes and images. Where does the idea come from those?
Well, so the initial project that I did to sort of get a grasp on this technique were these chevrons. And the chevrons in themselves was actually initially just a project that I did for a friend whose son was turning 5, and he loved chevrons, so he wanted these 5 chevrons with his name on it, and it was very sort of gimmicky, but I thought, I'd do it for fun. And then somebody contacted me and said, "Oh, are you doing these chevrons? Like, I want a chevron." I have now retired the chevrons. There will be no more chevrons, but I've done like hundreds of them, and they're a lot of fun to do. But that's how I kind of discovered this sort of play with light and the paper color and the way it reflects on the surface. And then I thought, well, what can I do with this? And I many years ago, I had one of these, with a couple of friends. You went in and you get a palm reading, and whether you believe in it or not, it was a funny. And one of the things that this lady told me was like, you have really long lifeline, but it's very twisted. You have a lot of trauma and hard times in your life, but it's very long, just very hard. And I remember coming out of that thing, like, I'm not sure that that's good news. But I thought back on them, and that's kind of how I started with this sort of twisted lines theory, is that sort of, how we go through life, and that there are always twists and turns a little bit. So that's kind of what I'm on now, and I'm kind of pushing that to different limits, and just having fun with it, and then having this option of kind of 5 different vibrant colors that I can kind of vary between as well.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah.
Cool. You aren't originally from these shores. You was born in Paris, is that correct?
Yes, I was. I'm actually from everywhere. I don't really have a place I could say. If somebody asked you where are you from, it would be really hard to answer. But I was born in Paris. I have a Swedish dad, and because of his work, we just traveled everywhere as I was growing up. So lots of hotels. I got to know the staff really well. I love to hang out in the kitchen or the laundry room, and just the only constant I had growing up because of going to different schools all the time, was art. So it became this sort of the thing that I would sort of turn back to, and then it became a little bubble, and then you kind of almost get isolated in that too. But we hopped around. I moved, I think, something like 20 times before I was 18.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And did your parents have art in the home growing up? Was there art around?
They did. I mean, I think that they both have a more kind of traditional style. My dad probably likes modern art, but kind of we're talking more sort of early 20th century. So there was always something on the walls. But my art had always been more this sort of pop art and beyond. I remember the first time I saw an Andy Warhol. I was like, oh, what's this? I need to know what this is, because I've never seen anything like it. Or like I went on a trip to London when I was 14 with the class, and I saw Louise Bourgeois' installation for the first time with the giant spider, and I mean, it blew my mind. I want to do that. Can I do this? But I think traditionally, most of my upbringing was very sort of, you have to be a lawyer or a doctor or get an office job, and like, something that pays well and you're set for life. And then I came out with, like, I'm going to be a forensic scientist. Yeah, that's going to be my thing. I'm good at biology. I like doing the little sketches and drawing. I'll do that. And my parents are like, it's really, my grandfather was actually a police officer in Sweden, and he was known as the nicest cop in Stockholm. Like, he had all the crooks at his wedding. He got shot in the butt and then met my grandmother because she was the nurse that took care of his butt.
Oh, well.
So then all of a sudden, yeah. But at the same time, it's that sort of wonderful way that we sort of just rush into things and different things happen because of that. So I thought, yeah, forensic science, I guess that's a good job. And then I started taking art classes in college, and I'm like, I can do this for a living. It's just like, this is a thing. Like, this is a job. People get paid to, like, all of a sudden it was just this light bulb went off, and everyone said, no, you can't be an artist. No, you're not going to be an artist. And then I got into a really amazing university in the US, and I had the opportunity to go over there for a few years, and I'm in heaven. Everyone is creative. I'm surrounded by artists. We're all sort of just expressing ourselves. And then a professor said to me, well, your art is very graphic, have you considered graphic design, photography, and I'm like, me, I'll take a class. And then next thing you know, I'm going down that path. And I don't think it was the path I would have chosen had I stayed on the fine art track.
Yeah.
But then I graduated with, graphic design and photography in mind, and I worked in the industry for 30 years. And the skills that I've acquired through that experience have been wonderful. But I was always an artist at core. Like, just that's what I wanted to do. Like, ever since I had my first exhibition, I must have been about 15. It's like, this is what I want to do.
Well, you say you worked in graphic design for 30 years.
Yeah.
What was it you was doing specifically?
Well, it kind of evolved, because when I first started studying it, I was really into typography, and I was designing my own typefaces, and everything was hand drawn. And then I took in sort of introduction to Photoshop, like early Photoshop. We're talking mid 90s, and it was, oh, I can do this with a computer, and I always have these kind of and then next thing you know, I'm off on a completely different tangent, so I get distracted, yeah. And then around the same time, Director and Flash were two software that were really big, and that was sort of animation and interactive design. And then I started looking into that, and then just kind of combining photography and design and animation. I'm like, oh, I can do this. And I ended up doing 30 years in that, mostly working for medical institutions, pharmaceutical companies, that sort of stuff. And I'm not even sure how I got into it, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. I never fit in. You walk into an office and everything is blue and gray. You're like, I'm slowly dying. this is not good. So it I think it crippled my creativity a little bit to be in that environment, even though it was creative. It was sort of, you're getting paid and you're being pushed to be creative.
Yeah.
and it takes away that. What I have now is this sort of joy of waking up every morning and getting in the studio and just making stuff. And then if it doesn't work, well, hell, we'll make something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's magical to be feeling like that now, actually.
Do you still use the skills of the computer to design your artworks?
All the time. I mean, I've sort of retired from computers and laptops. I got an iPad about 12 years ago, the first one, and it just it's a much more intuitive way for me to work. I can draw on the go. I can take notes. I can I can design on there. I have all the tools that used to be available only on computers, and it's small and easy to use. So I definitely use all of my knowledge, the technical knowledge still, even coding wise, because I'm doing some stuff now using kind of generative code to create projects. Yeah. So there's a lot of exciting stuff that you can do without it taking away from spending most of your time building something, getting away from the screen, I think. Yeah.
And do you use the programs that are set into the iPad, or do you import external programs?
I mean, I would say Procreate is probably the one I use the most in terms of just sketching and coming up with ideas, which is a fantastic tool and very cheap as well. It's not subscription based, so you can get it on prescription. I'm sorry, but it's like having a piece of paper and a pen, but you have an endless amount of different pens and brushes and then I use actually an English-based company called Affinity, and they've got Affinity Designer, Photo, and it's basically like Adobe, but I think it's better because it's designed specifically for the tablet. So it's really intuitive to use and really easy to put things together. And yeah, I wouldn't credit Apple for software design, but as a physical tool, they have really created something for artists that's incredible to use. And I'm so sort of happy to be living in this day and age to be able to experience that. For me, it's the touch-based side of things. It's the fact that you have a screen that you can interact with in the same way as paper. And I even have a screen protector, which is paper feel to it. So you feel like you're actually drawing on paper, which is wonderful. It's this monopolizing the world and monopolizing the technologies. When you look at Android, I have an Android phone, and I absolutely love that it's open source and that anyone can create things for it, and that people get ideas and they make new things, and it's exciting, and it creates new ideas, and in return you get really cool things like projects that come out of it. But you have to give Apple credit for creating a tool that enables you to do so much creatively, and that I don't I don't need to sort of lug around 20 sketchbooks when I'm traveling. I just bring my iPad and my pencil, and then I'm good to go. But there are options like I would say, if you're gonna get something like that, like look into like a Samsung tablet, or like just something that is not Apple, but you can still do a lot of creative stuff.
As I say, I've been looking into iPad recently, and even for podcasting, the guys I know that run their own podcasts say that Apple is the best way to be able to use the editing tools. And
oh, really? Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. I can definitely agree with that. The speed is completely different. Yeah. Hardware wise, they're incredible. Software wise, they should open up their platforms and let everyone design apps for them, and then it will become this incredible machine, I think.
Well, you're saying about the camera there, very probably, I don't know for sure, but you may be able to give your camera commands visually, because I've got a gimbal. Because I've got a gimbal that holds my mobile phone, and I can give, from standing back like this. I don't know what the commands are because I've never used it. I've only seen the little tutorial that I never took much notice of. But you can go like that, for instance, and it stops, or you can go like that and it takes a photo or starts recording.
So it's gesture based.
Again, if I was to walk around in a circle behind the gimbal, it would follow me as well. It would just rotate and turn around.
I need that. I need that in my life. I have been, well, my hubby has banned me from buying any more toys. Like for now, because like I ordered a new ring light the other day because I'm taking photos of all my work for this upcoming show I have, and I just needed some good lighting. And then as you do, you find recommendations through friends, and you don't really read the instructions, and you're thinking a ring light, right? This thing shows up, and it's like it's gotta be a meter in diameter. You turn it on, and it's like
The street lights in the street go down.
exactly. It's just like humongous. And I set it up in the living room, and I sort of removed all the paintings from the walls, and I've created this sort of ready-made photo studio. And my partner comes home, and he's just like, okay then, and then just walks out.
So we're doing that with the house now, are we?
I'm growing out of my studio as I'm becoming more and more sort of full-time and dedicated. I need to find a studio space. So if anybody knows one, but I literally go from my bed to the kitchen to the shower to walking the dog, and then you're back in the house and working all day. And yeah, it's great. I mean, I've sort of found my stride, I think. The pandemic, despite the weird 3 years we've had, for many artists that I speak to, it's been a humongous opportunity to just buckle down and focus and do what you need to do, because there was nothing else to do. And for me, it's been just a wonderful way to just isolate and get stuff done and discover who I was as an artist, which I didn't have time to do before. But I mean, I had to isolate. I don't know about you, but I have all these medical conditions, and I got a letter from Boris 3 weeks before lockdown started. You have been classified as extremely vulnerable. You need to start isolating immediately. And in my head, I'm like, what does this mean? I was like, what the prime minister has asked me to do? Why? What's happening here? And then you sort of get into, like, I couldn't leave the house. I literally was not allowed to go outside. So I spent 420 days in my house.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
Do you have a garden?
It's like a communal garden. It's not like we don't go out there because it's everyone's bedrooms. It's like you walk too far one way, and it's like, whoa, you just came out of the shower. You walk too much the other way.
But what I'm saying is you had an outside space that you could go to safely.
Yes. I was gardening the entire lockdown. My partner's a garden designer, so he just keeps on bringing flowers home. And yeah, I had the most beautiful garden in London.
And where is home? Where are you based?
East London, Hackney Wick, Fish Island. Actually, I love it.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I kind of discovered East London on a whim about 25 years ago, and just fell in love with it. And it was really rough around the edges in those days, and yet there was something about it. And then, of course, all the artists started migrating that way from Shoreditch when it got too expensive, and now it's just insane. It's like we've had 50 new builds in the last 10 years here.
It's mad, isn't it?
It's like £600,000 for a 2-bedroom, and you think, what's happening? But it's a fun place to be. So yeah, I really like it here.
And will you be moving away like a lot of the other artists are doing from Hackney Wick?
I'm staying put. You will have to drag me out of here. I love it here.
Good.
But, you got the canals and the parks and so much life as well. I got Hackney Dave has just moved here, so on my doorstep now, which is really nice. And,
good.
The East Art Gallery, which recently opened, which is pretty cool as well, which is just around the corner. So lots of stuff going on. Yeah, I wouldn't leave it for the world.
And getting back to your work.
Yes.
Caro, what do you think is the artwork that you've created with the strongest emotional connection?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. I mean, I initially started doing paper art as a means to deal with severe anxiety, and the process, even though some people think I'm absolutely nuts because it takes so long, is something very, very relaxing for me. So each piece is really just literally blood, sweat, and tears. But I enjoy every single second of every millimeter of glue that I put down and mold the paper. So I think emotionally, I'm connected to each piece in one way, shape, or form or another. I'm learning to be less rigid and more fluid with my work now. Yeah. And the stuff that's starting to come out of me now, it's more sort of, I'm just going to see if this works. and then oh well, this didn't work, so we'll go move on to the next one. But I'm having fun, and I'm also sort of almost getting like another degree in art by being exposed to so much wonderful talent online, and seeing what other people are doing, especially sculpture, which I never looked into before. I was, graphic design is very flat. It's on the screen, it's on posters, and now I want to be more dimensional. I want to actually physically create things, and make them come to life. So yeah, it's all connected emotionally.
The sculptures you're on about creating, are they freestanding?
It probably will be. I'm sort of looking into some kind of dome or structural way to be able to contain them, because paper is so delicate. I wouldn't be able to have them just freestanding. But then I'm also sort of taking a wood workshop at the moment, which I really am excited about. And I think I would like to take something to do with metal as well. Like, I mean, I love paper, but it doesn't always have to be about paper. So there's sort of lots of options.
Yeah, but you could use like 8mm metal strips, which are powder coated white, so they look like paper, and fluorescent on the other side.
Absolutely.
So if they're painted and it looks like paper, it doesn't have to have that dome around it, and it will have its own structure. It will bend a bit, possibly. But then to the viewer, it would still have your identity of paper. Visually, no one needs to know until they read the information next to it.
Yeah, urban paper artist uses any material. I think that there's so many possibilities at the moment. I think I also need to sort of back it up a little bit, because the thing I'm trying to do right now is establish my voice, and then also put together a proper sort of set of collections that people can identify me with. Before I start running out there and like doing 200 different things. But I got a lot of stuff brewing, which I'm excited about as well. It's just sort of the experimentation phase, and how to make something look like something else. I find that really exciting. So yeah, metal but might be in my future. Yeah, I will credit you for that. Yeah.
No, you're quite all right. You're quite all right.
Inspired by Gary.
And Caro, if there was you and 5 other artists, past or present, what would your ideal group show be?
Oh, as a group, oh gosh. As a group show, that's tricky, because does it have to be just 5?
I'm sure you can pick 30.
No, yeah. I mean, I'd have them all over for dinner. That's tricky, because there are artists that I admire for who they are and what they've achieved, and especially female artists, like Bridget Riley, who's still with us, and gosh, her work is just mind-boggling. And then, you look back at sort of Frida Kahlo, and do you know who Carmen Herrera is?
Not the name, but possibly the work.
She was a kind of American Cuban sculptor and painter, and she did these very kind of geometrical shapes, and she did humongous sculptures. Like, they're now sitting in New York, and really, really interesting woman as well. And she died just recently, but she had an incredible life and really, really beautiful work. Yaya Kusama, I think, would be interesting. I love her dots. I would love to do a collaboration with Yaya Kusama. So I'm just going to put that out there into the universe. I just went down to Harrods this weekend and saw the installation there with her collaboration. And it's just insane. I sort of hope that what they have done with this collaboration, that some kind of money goes to some cause, because the amount of money that has been spent on this, and it's in something like 20 cities, these ginormous sculptures, she could fight Godzilla. It's just this enormous Yaya Kusama standing in front of Harrods painting dots, and it's a great concept, but what is it for? Like, why are we doing this? Other than, of course, it's a really cool collaboration for the artist.
Yeah.
But I don't think I would invest in a Louis Vuitton handbag with dots on it. So yeah, and then one more. Oh, this is difficult. Omar Rayo, probably, who is this incredible sort of op art Latino artist, beautiful work from the 50s, 60s, 70s. Um, I think his work would definitely be complementary. I mean, yeah, I could probably list another 20,
Of
but
course.
that, yeah, they're all sort of very kind of large scale conceptual kind of stuff that I think we would need a really, really, really big room, or maybe it would be outdoors. It
Why
would be an
not?
outdoor installation. Yeah, it would really big, and then I will introduce my metal works inspired by Gary.
Superb. Superb.
Yeah.
And if you wasn't an artist, what do you think you'd like to be?
Oh, I don't think that this is plan B. I went from commercial design and now I'm an artist. So I'm going to be this until the day I die. Maybe a dog walker. I
That'll
just
do.
love dogs.
Nice.
If I had nothing else to do, I walk dogs and spend time with our four-legged friends.
Oh, that'll
So
do.
probably, yeah, that
Perfect way to spend a
I
day.
would do. Yeah,
And have you got anything coming up?
exactly. Oh gosh, yes, I do actually. I'm currently in a show in Spitalfields. There's this lovely little beer shop bar called the Kill the Cat, and they have a space on Brick Lane at the moment, but they're opening a new one in Spitalfields. So we have a pop-up gallery there for the next few months with a bunch of artists. That's what's on at the moment. Next month, I'm in a show called Kink at the East Art Gallery. That's going to be really fun. It's sort of their first big group show since they launched. And then I am off to Los Angeles. I'm going to the Other Art Fair, LA.
Nice. Wow.
Oh, I still have to pinch myself daily. I can't believe I got in. It was just on a whim as a joke. Like a friend of mine were, getting a bit tipsy and we were complaining about how we'd applied to the Other Art Fair London so many times and they still saying no. And then, should we apply to all the other ones? Yeah, let's do that. Yeah. And then you get the email, you've been accepted to the Other Art Fair Los Angeles. And you say, I was just kind of sitting there. I was alone at home and I thought, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It's too early to have a drink. What do I do? Oh my God, I'm going to Los Angeles. It's overwhelming. I'm really, really excited. I'm so honored that this is happening and I'm learning all the ins and outs of
I mean,
shipping art.
there's several British artists that go, isn't there?
Oh God, I think this time around it's about 20, maybe 25. So there's going to be
And
a
are
big
you in
group of us.
contact with those guys?
Not everyone. I've gotten to know a few online, and then I have a group of friends that are also going. So it's going to be a good time. Yeah,
I
we're going to
was
take
just
LA
saying
by force.
that they may be able to give you some tips on shipping and what have
Oh,
you.
we're all newbies, but we do have friends that have done it before. And that, I mean, this is what I love about this community, and I'm sure you experience this. Like everyone is so nice
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
helpful, and like I even have like even if I haven't asked, have people reach out to me, go, oh my God, you got into the Other Art Fair. Here is the tips. This is what you need to look out for, and it's just like, oh wow, thank you so much for
Nice.
helping out. So yeah, it's there's a lot of things to keep in mind, and shipping all your work off to a different country, and yeah, it's a little daunting, but yeah, hopefully it's gonna be okay. So yeah, that's end of March, and so if you're out in LA, then definitely come and say hello.
I'm not allowed in America.
Oh
No.
yes, of course. Of course, with your experience, yes, I can imagine that's tricky. Well, we will make sure to take loads of photos.
Good.
So, yeah.
Now you're a part of the Other Art Fair, it will very probably make it easier to be accepted into the London one
Yeah, I'm
after.
hoping so. I think as artists, we have to just learn to take rejection as it comes. You get 20 no's and one yes, and that's a win. And you just got to keep applying to things and try things out and,
Yeah.
talk to people and smile and have a good time. And yeah, hopefully the art will get out there,
Just spread the love.
Spread the love and joy and happiness. Yeah, I know I sound so happy. But yeah, no, it's true though. If you give out the right kind of energies, then the right kind of people come to you, and then in return good things happen, even if there's been a lot of bad stuff as well. You got to sort of we're
agree.
survivors, you know. I heard a podcast with you recently, so I sort of just to get to know you a little bit, and I'm sorry for all the ordeals you've had to go through over the years.
Thank you.
But,
What one was that you listened to?
what was the name? It was on Medium, I think I found it.
We,
Born Again Artist. The Curator Salon. Is that what I'm looking? Yeah, Curator Salon. That was it.
Oh, Geeta Joshi, yeah.
Yeah.
That was Geeta isn't creating podcasts anymore, or she hasn't done for quite a while. She interviewed me, and then I interviewed her.
So nice. Yeah, two podcasters doing each other's interviews. I really like that. No, but it was sort of, you listen to, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I find it's a really lovely way just to get to know people's experiences and stuff. And this one was a really good introduction to you, because I don't know you very well. So it was nice. It was nice to hear your story, you know, and just to sort of see where you've come from. I think it's incredible that you sort of managed to turn something so serious and horrible into a really positive experience in the end, you know. And here we are.
Oh, thank you.
I love the fact that we're now able to share all of our experiences and talk about the things that we do, and also like all these pitfalls and things that we have done and experienced that are, well, technically failures. They help so many people by sharing them.
I agree.
You know, and just to put it out there into the world. Like I couldn't do what you do. I mean, gosh, how many? You've had like 200 podcasts now.
207 has just come out.
That's incredible. Yeah, and you're bringing people together. I mean, I just watched you at Roy's last April, which I think was the first time like I properly saw you in action.
That's right. Yeah.
Just walking around and interacting with everyone and sort of just chatting away, and it's just really nice to see that there are people like you out there who are bringing people together. Much. So you know, I like the energy.
And how can anyone see your work and what you're doing, be it social media or website?
Predominantly on Instagram. You can find me there, and all my information is there. It's at INKTERAKTIV, which is INKTERAKTIV, and then through my website, which I will be updating in March because I gotta head to Los Angeles. But I'm terrible with that. It's so funny because I used to design websites, and now it's like, ugh, I got to design my own. I hate doing it. It's just, I'm going to go do something completely different just because I want to avoid doing that.
Oh, yeah,
but
exactly.
Yeah, find me on Instagram, INKTERAKTIV, and then there's lots of links there. And I post daily if I can. So, yeah.
Brilliant. Well, Caro, that's all of my questions asked. Thank you very much for the time. It's been fun.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been lots of fun. It's so nice to talk to you.
Have a great rest of the day.
Take care.
See you later.
Yeah, take care.
Ta-da. Well, hope you enjoyed that episode of the Ministry of Arts podcast. So we wasn't dictated to by advertisers. We decided from the offset to go ad-free, which means obviously we had to self-fund. So we set up the Ministry of Arts Patreon page. And without that support, we would not be able to produce this podcast. So if you like what you hear and you're able to support the podcast, just go over to the Ministry of Arts Instagram profile. You'll find a Linktree drop-down box, which will direct you straight to our Patreon page. And for the price of a cup of coffee, you can help keep us growing week by week. But if you're not able to do that, that's fine, because this content is free for everyone. But leaving a review on whichever platform you listen to your podcast, that really does help us get noticed and anyone else looking for an art podcast. Or even giving us a positive shout out on your social media. Everything is appreciated. But either way, thanks for listening, and until next week, ta-da.